Hey everybody, welcome to another show here on the Comic Eye Live channel. We've got Craig Rousseau with us today. It's a wonderful Saturday afternoon here in Central Florida, so I'm appreciative of everybody who's going to be tuning in live to the show today. We're going to have both an interview and an art sale with Craig. We've not had him on the show before, so this is it's a first. So I'm just going to welcome him right now and get this thing going here. Hey Craig,
Hey, Bill, how are you?
I am doing rather well. How about yourself?
I am I'm happy to be here. I'm excited about this, and it should be fun.
Yeah, God. Well, first times are always, well, you've done this before. We talked about that in agreement. You've at least done StreamYard interviews, so this is nothing foreign to you.
Right? Yeah. First time with you, but I've done some of the video chat, live stream type stuff before.
Awesome. Well, like I mentioned, everybody, we're going to be doing an art sale in a little bit, probably about 20, 30 minutes into this. And then, but we're going to be chatting with Craig initially because, Craig, I've seen you at shows numerous times, and I think we maybe talked once or twice. I've got a couple sketches from you, but, it's been a while. I feel it's been over 10 years. So
That sounds about right. Yeah.
are you more of as far as your convention circuit and places you make appearances, do you stick mostly to the Northeast?
You know what? I live right in southeastern Massachusetts, so
Mhm.
I usually go where I'm invited, and that tends to be the shows that are Boston or Providence or up in New Hampshire, and then I'll make my way down to Heroes Con in Charlotte because that's
Mhm.
probably my favorite convention ever, and then Baltimore is a close second, so I'll do those. But unless I get invited somewhere, I don't really get too far beyond that.
Mhm. Well, I think we're all in agreement with you as well. I mean, Heroes is, one of the best shows in the country, especially for art collectors. I mean, you can't get,
Absolutely.
what did they have last year? I feel like they almost had 200 artists on the floor, which
I
you're
mean,
just not gonna. There's not many spaces where you can fit that many creators that in one place. But they could do a 4-day show, and you're not going to be able to talk to every artist that's there or visit every table. But it's fantastic. I mean, Chelten's done a fantastic, wonderful job with that show for as long as I've been going to shows or buying art. I mean, I think the first time I went to that show was in the late 90s, and it was, it all has the same feel that it did, right now as it did when I first started going. You can't say that a
exactly.
lot about a lot of
No.
shows.
Yeah, I think my first time as a fan was probably in the late '90s, going to Heroes, uh, and I went down with my friend Norman Lee at the time, and we went as fans, and we're just blown away by how big the show felt to us then, and looking at it now, it's positively quaint back then, because that artist alley is just so huge.
It's the longest alley in the country, I think, as far as
I think so.
whether physical or artist. It's true. I mean, they pack them in, and but again, it's the artist wouldn't be going if it wasn't a good show. There's just a phenomenal one, and yeah, I get it. In Baltimore,
Yeah.
only been to that one once, but I know that they have a lot of creators that go to that one. It's it's very comic book focused, which is
It,
nice.
Yeah, I know that Mark Nathan, who runs the show,
Mhm.
really kind of looked at what Shelton did. So I'd like to do that. So they bring in a lot of comic book artists and maybe one or two celebrities that are comic related, but it's very comic centric, which is nice.
Mhm. Well, Terrificon is, getting. I've never been to it, but I always hear good things about it. And that's kind
I
of in
I
your
went
neighborhood.
years ago and I had a great time, and I hear great people every year keep saying it's better and better. So
Mhm. Well, I saw Kazra said that I remember seeing you in New England cons, and you draw a mean Modoc.
yeah.
How often have you? I got to ask, because if you tell me it was only once, this will be very telling. But how often do you get asked to draw Modoc when you're out at cons?
Not all that often, to be honest. I would love to be asked like every time, but not all that often. I've done a few jobs for Marvel Creative Service over the years that involve Modoc, so
Mhm.
I feel like I get a little practice there.
Well, Kazra's very happy that your response was not. That was not what I was expecting. But, well, that's cool. So you've actually done that, work with creative services. 'Cause, when I look at, your like on comics.org, I always like to do a little research before I talk to somebody who I haven't, interviewed before. You can't really get that kind of a perspective on the work that you've done. You just see the published work that, that you can, that you've had, but then it's like the gaps. It's like, how do you fill in the time between, doing, comic books to, occupy your creative, work. I mean, so you've done things outside of books.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them have been comics adjacent, but definitely, for years I was doing stuff for creative services, doing stuff for the Marvel magazine, which was like Disney Adventures type stuff. And the weird thing is, like stuff like that, the sales numbers were insane because they were on grocery store checkouts and stuff like
Right,
that. So
exactly.
they weren't compared to comic book numbers. I had done stuff like that involved a lot of pop music things for Disney Adventures at one point. I did some Weird Al Yankovic comic strips. I did like Britney Spears. And then I've done licensing work, and I did some storybook stuff for Marvel Disney Press for a while. So it kind of was all over the map.
Well, that's awesome. And, I always
Yeah.
wonder which artists get, asked to do the work that you see at the checkout line, because there's always at least two Disney related books. One of them's always a Marvel focus, piece, and the other one might have Lilo and Stitch or whatever. But there's always something there. So
Yeah, and it's wild if you go back and look at some of those old Disney magazines from the '90s or the early 2000s, I think, because Brett Blevins had done some amazing Pirates stuff, the Disney Pirates movie,
mhm.
and no one saw it because it was in this kids magazine. But stuff like that I find to be a lot of fun, is to go back and see what other people have done like that.
So is that work that, you take to shows and people are like, I remember seeing that in the checkout aisle, or do you just kind of keep that under
It,
wraps?
it it doesn't come out a lot. I mean, there's not a lot of demand for it. Every now and then I'll have someone bring up a magazine to get signed, which I find weird. But yeah, there's not a lot of call for that artwork, so I have a whole pile of that put aside somewhere.
Cool. Well, you never know. I can tell you, there's a cap collector, that in the chat, who loves Captain America, who almost buy anything. If he knew it was published and it was on a cover, it would be, he'd be happy to get it no matter what it was published on. So yeah, you just got to always find the right audience, I think,
Oh,
for some of
that's
that
it.
stuff, right?
Exactly.
Well, we should, tell me a bit about yourself. I mean, I know you've almost, 30 years almost professionally in the business.
Yeah, I think we're closing on 30 years now. Yeah, I went to art school up here in Massachusetts, the UMass Dartmouth, and I was here, and I wasn't quite sure if comics was where I was going to end up, but it was. And one of my classmates had a friend who worked at Marvel in their creative service department, so he kept giving us some feedback and looking at samples and portfolios, and he kind of connected us with editors to get our foot in the door way back when. And that's where my first work was, doing some creative service stuff. And it was my first actual comic book page, which I still own. It looks horrific by my standards today, but it was in a book called like Saturday Morning Cartoon or something like that. And it was kind of a comic book tie-in to a CD that came out in the mid 90s. It was all these 90s alt rock bands covering Saturday morning theme song cartoons. And if you look at this comic, it's got a cover by Bill Sienkiewicz. It's got Chris Bacalo in there, Tim Sale. It is an obscene amount of talent in this book that almost no one got. And I'm in there. Like I'm the one person who probably had no credit at the time. So every now and then I will see one of those pop up at conventions as well.
Well, that's
then
cool. I mean, and I'm glad you kept it, right? I mean, the first
Yeah,
published piece of art you ever worked on, I mean, it's in a portfolio, right? Or do you have it on the wall so you can remind yourself,
it's just
your
tucked in
beginnings?
a drawer somewhere. It's just piled up under stuff. And then from there, pretty quickly I got a fill-in job on Impulse
Mhm.
over at DC when Umberto was getting ready to leave. And before I'd even finished the first issue, I got another fill-in. And then as I started working on the second one, I got the job full time, and I really hadn't done any regular sequential work at that point. So it was a leap of faith on their part, and I actually brought in Sal Buscema to do some breakdowns for the first few issues to show me like really the ropes, and it was to give Sal a little bit of something to do at the time, but it really was to help me figure out, storytelling, and that was incredibly influential to see how it was done. And then stayed on that book for a couple of years. Then went on to Batman Beyond for several years and some Gotham Adventure stuff, and then I eventually made it over to did some stuff for Image, and then I was at Marvel, and then doing some creator-owned stuff, and now I'm doing the young Hellboy stuff at Dark Horse, and then the Hercuoids at Dynamite. So I've pretty much been everywhere, I think.
You have. I'm curious about that experience with Sal when he was teaching you the breakdowns for, doing sequential work. I mean, did he sit down with you, or did he do it and then hand you the stuff, or
Yeah,
how did
they sent me blue line pages that he had done, and I
Okay.
just drew right on top of those. And I remember calling him up and getting his number and calling him, and I felt so nervous, and he was so down to earth and so mellow about it all, and made me feel much more at ease about it. And then, I met him a couple years later at Heroes Con, and we went to a party at someone's house, and next thing I know, Sal's on the living room floor, like just sitting there on the floor with a big pad of paper drawing for the kids who were there at this party. And it was just, most of us just stood back and watched, thinking, this is just, who gets to see this? This is crazy. And Sal thought nothing of it.
Wow. That'd be fun. I mean, Sal's a guy who I think I've only seen at one show ever. It was Pittsburgh Comic-Con. And, it's one of those, he always had a line. And I'm thinking, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'll get something from him at the next show. And that was one of his last shows that he ever did. I think it was like 2006, 2007, where he just was like, nope, we're not doing shows anymore.
Yeah.
So, that was disappointing, because you never know when that moment's going to happen where you don't get to see a creator who you really admire. But that's awesome. I mean, I love hearing stories like that. But so he broke everything down, and they sent you the blue lines just so you and the script. So they're sending you the script with Sal's blue lines to give you just a direction. I mean, and when you did it,
this is
find yourself
crystal clear storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you follow Sal's, kind of layouts and breakdowns?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because I was looking at other artists when I started on these pages. And if you look at them, the layouts were more, much more designing the page oriented, but not storytelling. And seeing Sal break it down panel by panel, it was nothing fancy. It was very workmanship, draftsmanship that told the story in a clear and energetic style, but it wasn't flashy. It wasn't overlapping panels. It wasn't cascading things. And it was just, this is how to tell a story visually. And that stuck with me ever since, because, most of the stuff I was doing ended up being, all ages stuff, where it was impulse, or it was animated stuff, or even, our book, The Perhaponauts, or the Hercuoids. Pretty much everything has been, I want this to be a comic that someone can pick up who's never read a comic and not be confused by it. And that's what Sal showed me in such a streamlined way. And it was, I don't know that I would have learned it on my own without seeing it. So, yeah.
Had you, so you knew going into it you were going to get that assist, but for something like that, would you ever go back and look at the first 20 issues before you jumped into Impulse to kind of see how the character was treated there and the stories were created, and then try to roll in and put your own spin on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the thing, is I knew that was the style of the book, so it was cartoony. So, I made my style even more cartoony for that book. And they kept saying his feet have got to be big and his hair is big. But then it became a joke to me that, at that point in Alberto's career, he was drawing everyone's feet big, but I just made Impulse feet big. Like, no one else had those gigantic shoes except for Impulse, because it was funny to me. And then I was still trying to find my own style. So yeah, I had to go back and look at that. And then working on the animated stuff, it's all style guides and how much you can, it has to be something relatable to if you've seen the cartoon, it should look like the cartoon. It can't be too far afield. And I was always, a bit jealous when I'd see, a cover come in from like Darwin, Cook, or Brian Stelfreeze, who had a lot more leeway to put their own style into what they were doing, and they were just amazing covers on those books. But you could still tell, oh, that's Batman Beyond or those characters. But I was still looking at piles of photocopied turnarounds that I was trying to at least get much closer to than my own style.
Mm-hmm. Well, so you approached it where you wanted to kind of, I mean, get your own style, but also kind of edit, I don't know, say like angle into some, a little bit of a house style compared for that character to make it the transition better, and believable between artists and everything. Cool. Lord of Fleck just posted something in the chat. What he said, and I didn't know this. You've done some band concert posters. Is that true?
Oh, you know what? Yeah, they're more for fun than anything else. About 5 years ago, I just started doing these concert posters for myself, and they're just 11 by 17 posters. Because I really, after going to concerts for since the 80s, I have missed the ticket stubs you used to get. And I really don't need any more concert T-shirts or concert posters. So I just start doing my own. And then eventually, every now and then, one of the bands would say, oh, hey, that's kind of fun. Like I'd just tag them on it or whatever. And they'd let me make a couple. We'd sell them at the shows or stuff like that. So I think like Southern Culture and the Skids, I've done a few for them. And then Bob Mould, I did one for his show. It was right down the road here. And got to meet him afterwards. And mostly my intent is really just to get one copy signed by them just to put away. So I go to a lot of concerts. So I think I'm at about 50 or 60 of these posters now. And it's just me having fun. And if you go on my website, there's a whole gallery of them at this point. So
I was on your website, but I didn't go in that gallery. So I'm going to check that out after the fact.
Everyone keeps saying you should really have a website that, it's clean and streamlined, and it shows off like your portfolio, your artwork, and mine is just all over the map. And I haven't really had time to organize it very well. I just keep throwing crap up there, and eventually I'll get to that later. But
oh, that's awesome. But a great way to meet some bands and artists, musicians that you've always wanted to is to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
I love that idea. Why not, right?
Exactly. And at one point when Bob Mould was playing at a venue down the road here, I talked to him. I said, hey, if we make just a limited run of posters, and I split it with you 50-50, and that pretty much covered my studio space for the month. And I got to meet him and he autographed and we hung out for a while, and I really enjoyed that. So and sometimes I got like other posters just signed that I can put away, or have a little collection of them, which is nice.
Well, I'm kind of mad. I should have had your website queued up, and I could have been showing people while we were talking, because now I'm disappointed I didn't see it. But why don't we talk Perhapanauts? That was one of the things I was kind of curious about. A fun book, but how did it come about? How did you guys work together to make that first issue happen?
That was a funny one, in that Todd and I met at Heroes Con. I think that we were going to the shows around the same time, and Todd was going with Mike Waringo, and they're working on Telos, and I actually did a short fill-in issue on Telos, or a one shot. We kept saying we should really do something, but he called me up the day that he got Impulse and said, man, I'm so excited. I'm going to be the brand new writer on Impulse. And I said, that's really funny, because I just got fired from Impulse, or because they're bringing in a new artist, which at that point was Ethan Van Sciver. But I had called the editor, Paul Kupperberg, and said, I feel like I've done what I can do with this book, and I think it's time for me to move on. And he laughed and said, well, this makes this phone call so much easier, because we are going in a new direction. I said, well, that's great, because I think it's a clean break for everybody. So at that point, Todd said, well, what can we do together? What do we like? And we like monsters. We like cryptids. We liked watching In Search Of and the X-Files and stuff like that. So we kind of hammered out the idea of a team of cryptids who go out and search for other cryptids, and decided we were just going to do this on our own. And we ended up self-publishing one issue, and then brought it over to pitched it at Dark Horse, and they picked it up for two miniseries. And then we got the rights back, and then we did probably about 8 or 9 issues or more over at Image. And we were just having a tough time keeping a schedule and getting some traction on it. So we put it aside for a while, and now whenever we have a chance, we'll do some more. So lately we've actually gone back, and we've got the rights back to all our books. We had tried a third publisher that really just did not work out well recently. We have all those rights back, so we're just going to self-publish and kind of get that, complete that eventual story. And we've kickstarted a couple books, and it's nice to not be beholden to like a publishing plan, or just we can do this on the side while we both have paying work, working for other books or stuff like that. So
the fans aren't demanding an immediate conclusion to the story.
The fans are very patient, which I appreciate. We've got an end game in sight now, but it's going to take a while to get there.
Well, that's it's going to be worth the wait, one way or another.
Thank you. I think I think fans will appreciate the story when we're all said and done, and if we surprise a few people along the way, that'll be nice too. But I know that we've talked about where we're going to end up with it. We've got a couple more. We did a hardcover, like a 60-page hardcover we kickstarted. We've got a couple more of those lined up, and we've broken down how that will get us to where we need to be at the end of the series. Mm-hmm. So that'll happen at some point. But the young Hellboy stuff kept me pretty busy, and then the Hercuoids is keeping me busy, and I've got something else going on keeping me busy. So when I can get to it, I will.
So do you collect art as well?
I used to. And then I realized quickly that it's expensive. And
tell us about it.
Yeah. And I don't have cheap taste. So I think that's also the problem. I have several Duncan Fegredo pages when he was drawing a Batman story. I bought a couple of those, and I bought a couple of his Hellboy pages and some little spot illustrations he had done. I have a bunch of little Mignola spot illustrations that he had done, and some Guy Davis stuff on my wall, and Sean Phillips Batman stuff I'm looking at right now. Got let's see, a Michael Cho painting I bought a while back. That was, again, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a lot of money. And I look at it and go, man, I could not even afford to look at that painting now.
We know, there's a big signature auction going on this weekend at Heritage, and everybody's just talking about, the pieces that are selling for more than they ever thought. Is it, speculating, is it now time to sell all my Kirby Fantastic Four pages? As if you even have one or two, that's wonderful in itself. But those kind of conversations start happening when you see the kind of prices that we've been seeing the last few years in the hobby. But I get it. But just from everything you rattled off, I love Duncan Fegredo. He's amazing. Whether it's I loved his work on Hellboy. That stuff was really fun. Hyper detailed. Shade. You name it. He's always been an artist that just kind of stands out because his style, and he paints, and anything he does just kind of has an energy to it.
Yeah, he's a guy that I would follow from book to book, wherever he was or wherever we show up, and he's doing a Jay and Silent Bob book. Awesome, that sounds great. I'm doing Hellboy. I go, great, I'll follow you. Anywhere you go, I'll follow you. So there are so many artists that I will follow from book to book like that. And if I can get a piece, that's great. Like when I had a Guy Davis had done this Hellboy story, and he had the whole story for sale along with the cover. And I really just wanted the cover, but like I'll buy the whole thing just to have that Hellboy cover that he had done. Mm-hmm. That's framed on the wall. I look at it every day I walk in. And I will say lately, the last several years, my collecting has been getting people to do Paraponaut stuff for us. So that's where my collection has kind of leaned in the last several years, where I've got David Peterson did a lovely piece for us. our friend Joe Staten did a piece for us. Looking down the hallway and see what else. Mike Allred did a cover for us, and I have that original hanging on the wall. And the one that I just every day I look at it and I'm just blown away is Walter Simonson did a cover for us, and he gave Todd the
Get that?
Yeah, and Todd said, "You can hold on to that. Like we'll hand it back and forth." And I've yet to get back because every day I look at it and I'm like, man, that is wow. I can't get over the fact that I'm looking at a Simonson original every morning, and it's inspiring.
Well, that's one of the things when I talk with creators who have their own creator-owned projects. Getting to own some of the variant covers or work that's done by other creators, because usually asking creators that you admire anyway, and they think might be excited by your by what you're doing, and the storylines and the characters and everything. And by and large, everybody just enjoys getting to own the pieces of art afterwards. I mean, I get it, right? These, I was going to reserve that question or hold it back, but it's awesome that you're already doing that. I mean, the idea of owning a Walt Simonson piece for your IP is amazing, incredible, and I can it is a co-owned piece. You guys have to keep trading it back and forth.
The one that absolutely kills me, the story I would love to tell though, is that for our first issue at Image, Todd reached out to Arthur Adams and said, "Hey Arthur, could you do a cover? I'd love to." And he did this cover. It was fantastic. And then we paid him his right up front, and then I was like, "Oh, hey, do you think I could buy that artwork from you?" And he said, "Oh, no, it's gone." Like as soon as I did it, it was in a portfolio at a convention, and somebody saw it and bought it. And I didn't think he wanted to buy it, so I'm sorry. So I reached out to the person who owned it, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know who these characters are. I know nothing about this book, but I'm not selling it, so don't even ask." I was like, "Oh, well, if you ever want to," and it was like a simple like, "I won't. No, thank you. Have a good day," kind of email. Damn it. That was the one that got away from me.
Was it on Comic Art Fans, or how did you find it?
I think it might have been on Comic Art Fans that I found it.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's I wonder if it's still there, because I think I know the image. When I was looking up images to pull for the book, I think I saw that one. It was pretty dramatic, and it looked like Art Adams, but the coloring was a little dark. I couldn't quite.
Yeah,
sure.
Our pal Rico Renzi colored it, and it was kind of some pinks and purples, and
yes, that's the one.
And they're all kind of leaping out at us. Yeah, that was the one. And I get it was a very, very polite response. Like, "No, I'm never selling it, so you don't have to email me anymore." Okay.
Well, that's why it sounds like calf, because typically, that's what happens. I mean, people will, they know that you'll send them an email once a year if you don't get told to just don't ask me again.
Stop. Yeah.
Exactly. That's okay though. But at least you knew where it was temporarily.
And it's in good hands. I mean, someone's liking it, so I can't fault them for that.
Mm-hmm. So let's see here. So after what did I was thinking of like you said, you've done work on Disney properties. You've gone, and now you've done work with Dynamite. You mentioned Hercuoids, but you did some Gargoyles work too, and I think a few other IPs that Nick's got around there for the in the last couple of years. What's your experience with Dynamite been like? I mean, clearly, if you've done some great work over there.
You know what? I've been really enjoying what I've got to do over there. The stuff that I did before the Hercuoids was with Nate Cosby, who was actually my editor at Marvel back in the early aughts, I think, when I was doing the Captain America Korvac saga and stuff like that. He eventually moved over to Dynamite. He's doing a lot of stuff there. So he reached out about doing some covers, and I did, I think, 8 Lilo and Stitch covers, and I've done 6 Zootopia covers for him, and they've all been a lot of fun and easy working with them. And then when Tom Snagowski and I were just wrapping up one of the Hellboy books, he said, I'm pitching for Hercuoids. And I said, I would very much like to draw that book, please. So I ended up getting that job and been working with Tom on that. And they're great to work with. I've had no editorial interference or, "Oh, you can't do that," or "You should do that," or change this, do that. It's been kind of hands off and letting us, go, and hopefully we're doing the projects justice.
Awesome. Alberto, who is the Captain America collector I was mentioning earlier, says that he has 2 Lilo and Stitch covers and 2 Zootopia covers that you did for
Oh,
Dynamite.
that's right. Yeah, I sent those out to him, and I'm glad they made it there safely. I always cringe when I'm sending artwork and it's got to go across the country. So I'm glad he got them, and I'm glad they're made it in one piece.
Awesome. Yeah, they no, you pack. I can tell you, your artwork was packed very well.
Okay, well, thank you.
30 art packages every year from artists, and they range from almost manila envelopes with one piece of cardboard in them, or pieces that are that are shipped like yours. So you're at the top end of what I would say. You know how to pack, and you want to make your art arrive safely. Fred Hembeck always sends me stuff, and I love Fred, and he packs stuff in. You can tell he cuts up cereal boxes and makes layered stuff, and
yeah,
but it makes it here. I have yet to have one thing get damaged shipped, but it's always an adventure. And then he wraps it in like meat packing paper, and and always draws something on it for me too. So there's a takeaway every time I open up one of his packages.
That's a nice thing. Yeah, my sister works at an art store not too far down the road, and I have them save all the boxes that mat board shows up in, like the big 27 by 41 sheets. So then I cut a whole bunch of masonite where I cut templates. Just keep cutting. I have stacks of cardboard cut up to put either with books or with artwork, because I wouldn't want to have a package show up. I've seen horror stories of them bent in half to fit in the doorway, or with footprints on them. So I try to make it as difficult as possible for them to mangle it.
Well, you did really well. But back on the Hercuoids, so I mean, that's a strip that's been around for over 50 years, and it's Hanna-Barbera, Toth Designs. I mean, is Toth somebody whose work you have an affinity for? I mean, is that why, or did you like the strips? Or that,
what? I mean,
is that what made you you wanted to work on it?
Yes, to all of it. Like, I mean,
yeah.
the idea of a giant rock ape and a dragon and a laser beam dragon, and
yeah, exactly.
Like, as a kid, I watched it in reruns in the 70s. I absolutely loved it, and I didn't know anything about who designed the stuff till much later, and I got blown away by his work, and you wouldn't have known it. Like, I wouldn't have known it growing up, but his work on that and Super Friends and all these cartoons was a huge influence on my style, where it's a lot of it's very simplistic, contour lines, because of all the cartoons that I would watch as a kid, and I just gravitated towards that, and then it became the Bruce Timm stuff and beyond. But then as I got older, I started going in and seeing the comic work that he had done. That stuff was just absolutely amazing. And I will say, I'm kind of glad, as awful as it is, I'm glad he's not around now to hear him critique my work of his characters. So I at this point, I'm just happy to be doing it.
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't heard a lot of stories about Toth. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know much about him. I've, but like you, I mean, love his art, and his sequential art is amazing. I mean, nobody, lighting and mood. I mean, Toth was just amazing. It's cool to see that he could do sequential work like that, and then do mainstream character designs, in a very different style. He was adaptable, and yet, like you said, I was I'm a few years older than you, so Super Friends and all the Saturday morning cartoons. I mean, the idea that he's so influential on many of our lives is that he's the kind of guy that all of us should be going up and thanking, for making our childhoods more interesting and giving and turning us on to comics. Because without all those cartoons and everything, I don't know, would I have gotten into comic books as much as I did? I'm not sure.
Yeah, probably not. And then I specifically was looking at the cartoons when I was drawing this comic book. I wanted to feel have like the feel of the cartoon, not slavishly stylistically as identical to the cartoon, but I specifically wasn't looking at his comic work with all the spotted blacks and all the textures and stuff like that, because I didn't want to go in that direction with the look for this book, because I know I couldn't remotely do that justice. So I stuck with what I knew, and then that cartoon that I grew up with is in my head pretty much every time I'm drawing a page.
Mm-hmm. No, it feels very much like the cartoon. Looking at the originals that I have here.
Mm-hmm.
So no, that's awesome. What was see, you have a very interesting studio. I assume we're in your drawing studio.
Yes.
Drawing board in the back. We typically don't get that. We usually get a blank wall. when we're doing either collector interviews or even artist interviews. So I saw Samuel mention that he likes seeing Iron Giant anything in someone's personal space, and so I was seeing that in the Muppet in the background.
That was the little Muppet animal puppet I had as a kid is hanging up there. You can kind of almost see the Michael Cho original Thor painting. It's like a red and blue and black.
I'm going to go full screen on you so we can get a better look. There we go.
Okay, yeah, and then there's my Darwin Cook cover the only one that I was able to get was Bad Girls miniseries, I guess, from years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, and then a bunch of the DC Mockettes and Hellboy stuff, and random Mignola prints and stuff like that piled up. But this book's piled up everywhere, and Iron Giant, there's a book there. I got the Mondo figures collecting dust right behind it.
Sure.
That movie was hugely influential as well. And when it came out, like I went on eBay, like in I don't know what that was, like the early 98, I think maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought a 6 foot tall movie poster. It's like 6 foot by 4 foot, I think. And it's huge. And I ended up getting it framed, and there was nowhere to put it. And we eventually, we bought our house in the early 2000s, and we put an addition on the house. And we specifically designed it so that as you walk up the stairs, there's this 6 foot Iron Giant poster as you walk up every day. And
that's awesome. I don't know how you found it had to be a custom frame because
you
go to Michael's or something and buy a frame. Oh man, well I had a feeling you were going to say that you had to build a space. You had to define, set aside a space that you knew you could put that thing on. That's awesome.
They walk up and bam, it's right there. You can't miss it. And I'm glad that my better half humors me with a lot of this stuff. Like we've got posters everywhere. We've got the Mondo. David Peterson had done a Brave poster. You see that when you walk in the door of our house, and I've got some movie posters hanging up and some Simpsons lithographs and stuff. It looks like a 12-year-old lives in this house.
You mentioned Peterson. You did something on Mouse Guard, I think, right? Or maybe a story or two in one of his...
I've known David for years, and he humors me every now and then and has me do like a pin-up, or I did a short story in one of those Tales of the Mouse Guard, I think, Legends of the Mouse Guard, and it was the first time I'd ever written anything by myself, and I said, yeah, I'd love to, and apparently he sent me a little Bible of things to do and not do, and I never saw it, and I pitched him my idea, which is really just a retelling of the story of the lion and the mouse, like with the thorn in the paw and all that,
mm-hmm.
and he says, that's great, but it literally does everything I told you not to do. But you know what? Run with it. We'll make it work. And he did. He figured out a way to make it fit into his storyline. But again, he humored me and said, just do it.
Just run with it.
Yeah. So that was the first time I'd ever really written anything without a writer, because I've been working with Todd Tizego for years on stuff. We've done
mm-hmm.
a lot of stuff. Our own stuff. We did a couple Marvel stories together, I think, finally. And lately I've been working with Rich Woodall. We did a creator-owned book called Kyra Alien Jungle Girl, which is exactly what you think it is. It's an alien jungle girl. And now Tom Snigoski and I have worked on Hellboy, and we're working on the Hercuoids, and we've got another book we're working on at the same time. So when I find a writer I like to work with, I just get into a rhythm, and I can follow their thought process pretty well. And I don't have to think about coming up with the whole story myself. That's a lot of work.
Exactly. Well, no, that's great. Yes, you know, to have somebody that you trust and you get into their mind, and you guys just work well. I assume you maybe plot some of the stuff together, or do you just get everything from him, or how
Uh,
is the creative process with that?
with Todd, it's very much
Mhm.
we'll get together for a weekend and we'll say, well, this should happen, or this shouldn't happen, or what do you think? What if we get to this point? And then he'll write it, but it's not quite the Marvel method, but sometimes there's no dialogue, and he'll just say, I'm waiting for your expressions. I'm waiting to see what you've drawn, how they react with each other, because each character they might make a little facial expression I wasn't expecting, and that'll change the dialogue.
Mhm.
Whereas, with Tom, I'm pretty much getting full scripts because they have to get approved first and all that. So uh, I'm happy to work both ways.
Awesome. We had let's see, J. Robert Deans popped in and said, Craig, sorry I'm late. How are you? So,
I'm doing just fine. How are you, sir?
and then Ryan said, you look like John Burns' younger twin brother. He's
It's
younger
getting
and
there, isn't it?
older, I think, Ryan. That doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe just younger brother. That's what.
Yeah. Well,
And then Dana Black over on Facebook. Most people are on YouTube, but I see Dana's over on Facebook. Said, always enjoy your work, and it's thrilled to see you working with Rich. Double
oh,
exclamation point.
thanks, Dana.
Thank you, Dana. So well, we probably should slide into the art. We do have, I think, 27 pieces of art to look at today, and I think
Okay.
we're going to touch on. And you gave me nice groupings, right? There's Young Hellboy, there's Hercuoids. We got a couple Batman 66 pages, Impulse pages. So I think we'll be able to talk a little bit about the creative moment in your career with those, because it kind of doesn't span everything, but Impulse is early, Herculoids is
Well,
obviously
if you
current.
go back to Impulse, it's almost from the yeah.
That is
That's a
that
lot.
is the beginning. I forget it. I did make a note. Where was it? I said that. Let me see. It was Impulse 21, and I know we have an early Impulse page in the 20s, so it is very
Yeah.
early in your career. Do you still have a lot of that stuff around, or is it?
I don't. I mean, I
Mhm.
thought I had gotten rid of most of it, but some of it had shown up again, and that was in the pile. So I said, okay, that, and I thought I had some Batman Beyond, but I only have a few left in my portfolio, my personal portfolio of that.
Okay, I got to save the pieces that are most meaningful, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me give the ground rules to everybody in the chat. Anybody who's done these shows is already familiar with how we handle the sales here. All the art is in hand, so that's the first thing everybody needs to know. I'll be shipping everything once it's paid. Anything that gets claimed today, anything that doesn't get claimed during the show, I put on Comic Art Fans and the Classifieds sometime this afternoon. So anybody who's watching the show after the fact, it's real easy. You can head on over to Comic Art Fans, find my gallery, and you'll be able to find all the artwork available for sale there that didn't sell during our live stream. So that's one thing to remember. And I even wrote it down because I always forget this. For those of you on YouTube, please click that live button. It's like right down there, the lower left-hand corner of the screen. If you don't do that, you could be like 10 seconds behind everybody else in the chat, which means you're seeing the stream later, which means if you really wanted to claim something and somebody else is a little, 10 seconds ahead of you, they're going to get the art and you're not. So clicking the live button, or heck, you could hit refresh on your browser window and that will fix it for you as well. But the thing we like the least is somebody trying to claim something that we've already moved away from, and that they're buffered in some weird way on YouTube. Here, let me show my slide. So anybody who claims any artwork today, you're going to email me after the show, bill@comicartfans.com. And payment is always expected within 48 hours of our show. So, just email me. And when you do, it's always good to give me your mailing address when you send out that first email. It just kind of cuts to the chase and I don't have to ask for it later. But if we prefer Venmo, Zelle, personal check, you name it. I mean, personal checks we'd want in the mail on Monday, but we like to avoid fees. If you have to go the PayPal route, we do charge 4% for U.S. sales, and anything international 5.5%. But we like to avoid that, and are happy to work with you to make sure that we don't have to charge any fees at all. And as far as shipping and handling, like I said, I got the art here in hand. We ship everything in Masonite that I cut myself, so I guarantee it's the right size and it's very sturdy. We make sure that I put yellow tape around the ends. There's no way the post office can ever lose a package that we put together. And I put enough fragile stickers on it too that everybody knows they should be taking care of it while they're handling it. The domestic shipping in the U.S. is $30. Anything international, $65. And again, we're going to handle everything here. So sooner we get the payment, sooner we get the art out. If you typically I get things mailed by Tuesday if I get payment right away, and you'll get it sooner than next Saturday. I'll try to always turn things around quick because we want it to get back into their comic art fans gallery as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So, have you ever done a live stream sale before? I mean, you said you've done.
No, this is fascinating to me. No, this whole idea of live stream art sale.
Yeah, it's we've been doing them a few years here. They're always fun, and the thing is, I think everybody learns a lot, because we get to talk about the art while we're looking at it. And before we started, I was looking at your the posters that you did, and I don't know if Kaz was still in the chat, but you did do a Patton Oswalt poster for fun, and it is a MODOK, so I thought that very fitting, of course. But there you have it. That's one of those posters that you did.
And that was another guy that I ended up doing a poster for his show here in Providence, and he let me do a poster, and we sold a few, and it was kind of fun. I met him after the show. Great guy.
I have not met him myself, but Kazra says Patton was made for the role. he was. Definitely was.
And I think the weird thing is I did that maybe like the week before they announced that he was doing a show. That show on Hulu. So I had just done it thinking that he would be a perfect MODOK, and clearly I was right.
You definitely were. But here I'll even throw the link in the chat so people later can go check out the poster work that you've done here. There we go. So let's go ahead and we'll just start showing some artwork, because again, each of these spans a little bit of different periods, and I kind of moved around a little bit. I probably should have, if I was smart, I would have went chronologically and started off with the impulse, but I didn't. So I don't have a rhyme or reason for the order that I put them in, but everything is grouped at least. Is your audio okay?
Yeah, I actually tapped my double tapped it and started playing They Might Be Giants. I had to get rid of it real quick.
Well, that was one of the posters on that page, was it?
It's probably several of them in there, yes.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's dive into the artwork then. So Batman Blockbuster page, this is page 6 to that. I know that I'd asked you about it because I couldn't quite figure out what it was from. And I think it was printed in a couple different places, like a Harley Quinn book, and it was an insert in another, like a DVD or something.
Yeah, actually, I've got it right here in my hand. When I don't even know when the animated movie came out, there was a little hardcover book that came. I think it might have been a Blockbuster or something. I'm not even sure who came out with it. But when the DVD or Blu-ray came out at a certain retailer, they stuck this hardcover in there, and it was formatted for this. So each of the pages are broken up. If you look at it very clearly, that digital format DC used for a while, half and half. So it was printed in a little hardcover that came with the DVD, and then it was in a regular trade paperback after that.
Okay. So that makes sense then. I see the formats there, right? I mean, I didn't get it when I was looking at the art, but I thought it was an interesting layout on the page. So that now it's crystallized now. But you drew it on one board, so you knew going into it that it was going to be printed in that manner. So in that format, wider than it was tall, but that they also wanted it potentially for doing it in a regular comic.
Yeah, and you'll see that again actually as we get to the Batman 66 stuff. That was a DC digital format they used for a couple of years, where it was designed to be read, I think, on an iPad or digital format. So each page was kind of broken up into two different sections.
Or I'll switch over to the second lot, because same thing here. So the formatting is done for that reason. Like you said, a digital format, the way they printed it in that comic. So both of these lots were $200. They are an 11 by 17, and there's yeah, this last page was page 6. This is page 7 for lots 1 and 2. So that's cool. That's I thought something must have been up when I was looking at the layout, and now I get it. Because I think the cover, you sent me a cover image to that it was in that Batman and Harley book, and that was not the book that you were just showing us on screen.
No, it was an actual like regular comic book size book. Yeah. But
Yep.
this little weird hardcover that came exclusively with the DVD set, which I never saw in stores, but they mailed me a couple of them, so I guess it made it out there eventually.
All right. Well, that was those 2 Batman pages, and then I threw in one. You had a kind of a commission style piece, right? This World's Finest piece. Is this something that you would normally do at shows?
Yeah, if people ask for like a full figure, or 11 by 17, something like that, or this one I did at home just for the heck of it a while back, and 11 by 17 commission style piece.
Is that, do you normally do 11 by 17 when you're at shows, or is it more the 9 by 12, 11 by 14?
If people specifically ask for 11 by 17, I'll do it. But I've actually gotten to the point where I like doing little, just to make it easier for myself, like 6 by 9, because I can put that in my carry-on bags and stuff like that.
Yeah, if it can fit in a backpack, it's better than having to bring a portfolio on a flight.
And I would do all these little like head sketches on a 6 by 9. And if you're on my, I don't think I have it set up on my website so you can see them, but one fan had said, I'd like to do some little commissions of head sketches. So I'm now into like hundreds of Marvel and DC characters, and I put them together as prints. But the 13 by 19 is bigger because you can see a little more of the artwork. It is amazingly difficult to bring 13 by 19 prints anywhere or to mail them. It is, I don't think these things through sometimes, but so the smaller the better, I think, for commissions like this at shows. But I do stuff like on boards. If someone shows up with a board, absolutely.
Cool. Well, I saw Ryan mention that he likes your Canson sketches, and so I threw that link in the chat because you do have some examples of that work up on your website.
I think
Is
Ryan
that
has
a lot still, or have you moved away from that?
Just for schedule wise, I haven't had a lot of time, but every now and then I'll do. If I'm not at a convention, I'll do a not at a convention weekend where I'll just do sketches all weekend, and I'll put up a list and I'll say I've got like X spots available, and I'll post them as I'm doing them, and that way I can sit and drink beer at my table and not at the bar. Or I could just roll out of bed and sit down and start drawing. And I would offer up those that style commissions. So I think Ryan's actually gotten quite a few through those not at a convention weekends.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. Glad to hear that, Ryan. Let's see here. So you were mentioning the Batman 66. So I put those next. We can look at those. So I thought this was this one just made me laugh. I get to hear them talking back and forth. We're in trouble, old chum. Kind of a, I don't know what the words balloons would be, but
I think you're close actually. And this is, again, DC was doing a lot of weird stuff with these formats. So I drew them on a regular comic book board, but it's split in half, did for the digital format. And then I would scan it, and they wanted all the artwork in layers. So, even though that panel's got Batman and Robin and then the Scorpions all on that one panel, I would scan it and then I would separate it. So the Scorpions are on one layer, Robin's on one layer, Batman's on another layer. I would add in extra details I needed to, because they would do like this limited animation where the Scorpions would kind of just move into frame, and then they change the focus on characters and stuff like that. So it was a bit challenging to do these pages because I couldn't think of them as just comic book pages. I think of how they would animate. And I think on that panel where he's got his mouth open, there's a little sound wave because he's doing some Tibetan throat warbling or something like that, which makes them scurry away. So they added that little sound wave in with the digital format.
Interesting. So same thing here. It's that horizontal format, but both on a single board. And then you had, let's see, the same thing here. Yep. Oh. always in peril.
Yeah.
Same. So yeah, so these two are 175, lots 4 and 5. But I mean, what did you yeah, how do you prepare for drawing, this era Batman? I mean, did you just go back and check out stills of those guys and, just try to emulate?
Yeah, I mean, that was, one of the reasons I always tell my accountant I'm buying the stuff for reference. I had the Blu-ray set right there, so I was watching the Blu-rays as I worked on it, and I was again a huge fan of the show growing up as a kid. So that was the Batman. That was my Batman for a while. So when Parker was saying he was working on the book, I did a whole bunch of samples, and eventually I just wore the editor down, I think, and I got to do this story and then another one. But yeah, I definitely kept looking at some of the funny camera angles and how they would do some of the action scenes in the show and try to emulate that.
Well, it's fun. It's always interesting when you have to talk to your accountant about what you had to buy, related to work. But the thing is, you can prove I got paid to do this work, so I had to buy these materials, these DVDs
Exactly.
and comics, right?
And the fun thing about it the last couple of years is that now I'm writing off concert tickets because I'm doing those posters and then I'm selling them. So it's work related. So
Man, you got
yeah,
this figured
thinking.
out. Wow, every hobby you have is, you're right. If you could just make a buck, then
If you can
you
monetize
go.
it and
Oh,
still make it
interesting.
fun. So I mean, I don't want it to become work. But if I can write off a ticket to go see Weird Al and then do a poster and then
Nothing wrong with that at all. So I guess are you gonna be at a show in a couple weeks? James Posey said, "Hey Craig, I'll see you in 2 weeks." Is it what?
yes, Wicked Comic Con will be
Oh,
happening
that's
up
right.
in Boston.
Hmm. I did forget about that. They it's at that time of year for them to come back.
Yeah, this year they're changing their format. I know they had a big guest list last year, and they brought in artists from everywhere, and it became a too big of a show, I think, in a lot of ways. So they pared it back down. So it's going to be a one day show up in Boston. It's going to be a free show, a lot of local artists, but it's free for folks to get in the door, which I think is huge. So
You
we'll
don't
see how
hear
that
about
goes.
the free shows too often anymore.
No.
Yeah, no, that's I went to school in Boston on the North Shore. I
Okay.
went to Montserrat and Beverly,
Oh yeah.
and I always felt, so I've always wanted to get back up there. I mean, if I went to a show, I'd go to the Wicked show for sure. I mean, it's put on by people who I know, art collectors and fans of comics in general. I mean, I've seen a lot of photos. It looks like a great show.
Yeah. I have a great time at their show, and looking forward to it in a couple of weeks. So it should be fun.
Well, James, will see you then. And then Ryan mentioned that he has a full on Alpha Flight
Yeah.
uh, on corner in his house. So that's dedication right there. I'm sure it looks great though. I mean, anytime you can get comic art or illustration artwork that you like that's colored and fits your decor, so you can look at it every day. That's exactly what many of us are looking for.
Exactly.
All right, let's keep this thing rolling. I have another Batman piece, and this one I had to ask you about it as well. I wasn't really sure. Some kind of a VIP event at a Nashville con for this
Yeah,
Batman Beyond.
most of those conventions have the VIP package where you get extra stuff going in.
Uh-huh.
They actually had the voice of Batman Beyond was a guest at the show, so we did a poster that got signed by I'm going to say Terry McGinnis, but the actor who played Terry McGinnis, drawn a complete blank. But that's the original artwork for that poster. And really one of the few pieces of Batman Beyond art I have. Most of the original pages are long gone. And I really like drawing that guy. It's a lot of fun.
Batman Beyond was earlier in your career, right? Or am I
That was
mistaken?
that was right after Impulse. So
Right. Okay, so it
yeah,
was early 2000s.
yeah.
And when was this done? I don't
This
recall.
was only just a couple of years ago. I think it was like 2023 or 20 about 23, 24. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, this is a nice one, and it's $400, lot 6. We're going to switch into some impulse stuff for the next 3 lots. So this okay. So it wasn't an issue in the 20s. It was a 32. So this is like maybe after you're on the book for 12 months, and this is a really nice end page, indicative of your style on the book at the time.
There's a lot of hair. That was
Yeah,
the
a lot of hair. I'm not seeing the big feet here. There's no feet in this particular drawing. I think there's one
yeah.
one of the next two, but so we don't get that, but we do get the big hair here.
And what I like about this page when I was going through and I found it is that, it's got lettering on it, and you just don't get that anymore. I miss the hand lettering on original pages and the paste ups and that tactile experience where you could see that people have worked on original artwork.
Yeah, no, we all miss it, as collectors. So often when we post artwork to our CAF galleries, we'll post the published page to go along with it, so you can at least know what was going on in them. And yeah, we all miss it, definitely. So this would have been probably like 98. I'm guessing maybe 99.
Yeah, I think 99 sounds about right.
All right. So we got the end page here to issue 32, and then let me see. The next one is from issue 39. No, we don't get the big feet on this one. It must be the next one. So this is kind of well, this is page 10 to that book.
And again, a lot of the hand lettering on that, which I thought was kind of fun. I was starting to feel a little more comfortable with my own style on this page, but also the running joke with the hair that they cut. It kept getting bigger and bigger in every page. That I think the editor at the time or the writer was Bill Messner-Loebs. We shaved his head in one issue just for the heck of it. So this is, I think, an issue after he shaves his head. It starts to grow back in, and it didn't actually ever get as big as I was drawing it because it got cartoonishly big at one point.
Right. Well, he did have big hair for a while. I get it. You needed to shake it up a little bit. So this one's 150. It's lot 8, and again, issue 39, page 10, and then this was a cool page. Get some action on this one. This is 43, page 14, and priced at 150 again, and you get the lettering on it. Now, when you're working today and you're working with letterers, I mean, do they ever show you any of the work before it gets published? I mean, do they seek your suggestions or guidance when it comes to putting in the digital lettering?
Not usually, no.
Yeah.
And the last few projects I've been working on, I've got colorists who are really, conscientious, and they're sending me emails and they're sending me the pages and asking for notes or feedback. And I think there's been so many projects where once I finish that artwork and send it off, the next time I see it is in print. Whereas now they're like asking questions. Did you want this? Did you want that? I'm amazed by it. But lettering I never see beforehand, and especially with the Perhapanauts, I letter that all myself, so I know where the lettering is going to go, and I know how to change the artwork enough to make sure that I can work with the lettering, so it's not a surprise.
Right.
But sometimes I'll see a page go, oh, I didn't expect you to put the lettering right there because I left that gigantic space there for it. But
well, this is the only. Well, this is the last page we have from Impulse. I'm switching into the Hercuoids now, Craig. So,
okay,
yeah,
all right.
I did not, as you can tell, I went from the oldest to the most recent, I believe, here. So this is from the first issue of Hercuoids, page 13. And I don't know Gleep from Gloop, but and maybe you don't either, right? You just
No.
draw them, right?
I mean, one is bigger than the other, but it's usually pretty interchangeable when Tom puts Gleep and Gloop, and they just.
Oh, hey, Murdoch just claimed lots 7 and 8. I'll just write that down. Thank you, Murdoch. Seven and 8 was the first 2 pages from Impulse that we looked at, so everybody knows. But back to Gleep and Gloop. So just the size, that's all that matters. There's a subtle difference between the two, and then you kind of run with it from there.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, now we're into the non-lettered part of the show.
And a lot of, at this point, what I'm doing for all these pages is I do digital layouts and then print those out on
Right.
a blue line and then ink.
I was going to ask, yeah, about that, because I probably should, should have noted that. So this is you doing roughs digitally, printing them on board, and then inking everything yourself.
Yeah. I find it so much easier to make those corrections digitally, to move that figure like a half inch, or to make that, flip the figure around, or make sure I leave enough room for dialogue, and then but I still really like the tactile feel of inking on a board.
No, well, it's becoming more and more common. We're all getting used to it, especially when the the artist who's doing the digital roughs is the one who's finishing it, right? I mean, that's just that's how we'd want it, right? Versus a blue line that's sent to somebody else and then inking it, and the blue line has was scanned from a pencil piece. So now you have two pieces that exist out in the wild, and as collectors, it just makes it, you want to at the very least own both pieces if you can help it, right? Try to marry the two, and that doesn't happen that often. But yeah, in this case, everything is on board. All right, Jason Ladwig. Hey, nope. Can we start over? No, you can come back. You can rewind it when we're all done. We've got an hour. We're an hour into this now. I'm sure you had chores to do on Saturday afternoon. Let's see. This is lot 10, priced at $200. We'll go through these. I think we have like 5 or 6 Herculoid pages. This is from page 1 as well. Page 1, issue 1 as well. It's page 17. And again, I mean, you got the characteristics of these the Herculoids down really well, and I'm sure just watching the cartoons was enough to kind of get in the spirit.
Absolutely. I mean, and the one thing I did notice as I watched the cartoon, like, it was the same story every episode, just different, take on which bad guy shows up to try to take over the planet, and the Herculoids fight them off in various ways. And Tom has kind of leaned into that in the stories, which has been a lot of fun. But yeah, I can hear the cartoon as I'm drawing some of these characters, like Igu and Zoc and Dorno and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Ilya had a technical question for you. What is the working size of the digital screen you're working on? I mean, is it a Wacom tablet, or you just use an iPad? What's your
iPad Pro?
iPad Pro.
Yeah. So that I'll do the layout, and I keep it almost locked at that size, so I don't get too noodled into the small details.
Yep.
And then I'll export that file onto an 11 by 17 format, and then print that out.
That makes sense. So so this is lot 11. Let's take a look at lot 12 too. This is from issue 1 again, and page 20, 11 by 17 with like you said, you're doing the roughs digitally and then inking on the board. Speaking of inking, J. Robert Deems wanted to know if you are using the same pits on the comic pages as you do when you're inking at shows.
Yes, I am. I use the Pitt pen almost exclusively, the Superfine S pen. So I'm in my art store like pretty much every week buying a handful, because I get to a certain point, maybe about half a page by the time the nub is worn down enough that I have to put it aside, and that's in my convention pile of pens that I'll bring to a show and abuse and then throw out. But I've tried brushes. I've tried different kind of pens. I've tried the microns, and either they smudge as a left-hander, I'm running my hand all over the boards and stuff like that, or as I'm erasing, it pulls up too much of the ink. But the Faber-Castell Pitt pens have treated me very well, so I'll just build up lines slowly, and that's why you see a lot of those double lines, me inking over a couple spots.
Got it. Well, if you use Pitt pens so much, you should just you got to find a place where you can get them wholesale.
Yeah, I should. I go into the art store my sister works, but I test every single one of them, because sometimes you get a batch where they're all dried out. So I'd rather go in. It gets me out of the house every now and then.
Yeah, I understand that. The need to do that, working from home as well. I saw Big Phil 33 and a third media wanted to know if these are pencils and inks. They are actually digital pencils that are done on an iPad, printed onto 11 by 17 board, and then Craig inks on top of that. So yeah, so you see the blue line printed, kind of a hint of it on the boards, but yeah, it's all traditional inking done on top of that. So let's see, that was lot 12. Lot 13, again, Herculoids. Kind of a nice semi-splashy image here, which had to be fun to draw.
Yeah, every time I get to draw all of them, it's been a lot of fun. I'm still getting my bearings on some of these characters, even though I'm on issue 5 now, because they're so deceptively simple. I mean, every detail has to work out right, or it feels off. Which I think is a lot of the stuff that I work on. Is it looks really simple, but that means every line has to work that much harder to be the right line.
Mm-hmm. No, well, I think you're getting it. It's not straight toasty or anything, but
No,
it's got the vibe of the cartoon, which is exactly what I think everybody wants. And Dynamite just has a knack for getting cool IPs. I think that we've all kind of been surprised by the stuff that that they've managed to bring it under the fold and gotten to work with. And I mean, you even did a Red Sonja piece or something, or what was that?
yeah, I did. I did like a Red Sonja short story, and then I did a 5-issue miniseries with Mark Russell had written it, and during his run, but it was called the Boy Who Killed Red Sonja, because when they first started asking me to do some Red Sonja stuff, I said, I don't know that I'm the right guy. Like it's taken me long in my career to realize like I'm not the sexy woman artist, or I'm not this really super serious kind of artist. So when they said it's this Red Sonja story, I said, well, I don't know. And they said, well, how about a story? It's about a little kid and a talking warthog and some giants and some trolls, and Red Sonja will show up every now and then. So that's the book for me.
It sounds like a Disney movie.
Yeah.
Not a Red Sonja movie.
No, I mean, it was a little, yeah, it was a lot of fun, actually.
That's funny. Oh, cool. Well, this one's, I think this is probably the priciest Herculoid piece we've got. It's $250 from issue 2, page 2. And let's see, lot 14 is also from issue 2, and it's priced $200. It's page 13, and again on 11 by 17. Lots of battling here. I know Jason was mentioning I guess he has a thing for the dinosaur that shoots the lasers and stuff off of his but yeah, here it is. You get it all. You get a nice battle scene. And breaking up a robot that's kind of reminiscent of Iron Giant.
Yeah, I had to go in and watch the cartoon a couple times to get that robot design, and it is wild to see like some of these early cartoons from the '60s, and how the motifs are still around today in various forms.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, clearly, some great designs that survive the test of time, I guess you could say.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see here. So lot 15, also from issue 2. This is page 16 from the book, and priced at $175. Still more battling going on here. You get 3 of the main characters on it as well.
Gleep or Gloop, I'm not sure which one it was in the script, but he's there.
Right, when they're not together, you have no perspective on what they are. Let's see, I think there was one other one. Yeah, this is page 17 from issue 2, priced to $175 as well.
I think pretty much any Igu page are my favorites, because I do like drawing a giant rock ape. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who doesn't like that character?
Right. And you did the Bethune, of course, on there as well.
Yeah.
What kind of decision making goes there? I mean, as far as you could have left that to the letter, right? But you didn't want to leave it to the letter.
No, I didn't want to. And Tom had specifically said, let's try to do some lettering on some of these pages, see if it worked out. And I'm not a professional letterer by trade, but I think it came out okay. We're working with it a little more here and there. But I just specifically wanted it to drop in, in front of the explosions, but behind the spaceship to get that sense of depth. So I did that myself.
Well, it's a nice page. Now, it is the last Herculoids page we have. At lot 17, we're switching over to some young Hellboy. I actually think I have these out of order for some reason. I think we have maybe 4 pages from Young Hellboy. This is from issue 4, page 8, Lobster Johnson, and priced at 250. So how did you get into Young Hellboy? I mean, I know that was it a 4-issue series? I can't.
There have been 2 4-issue miniseries so far that have been published. The first one was the Young Hellboy, The Hidden Land, and then the second one is the Assault on Castle Death. And again, I was at the convention up in Boston. It might have been a fan expo at that point, but I was there, and Tom Snagosky and Christopher Golden came by, and Mike Mignola came by, and said, "Hey, I got an idea I think you'd be good for." And then it was really just from there, it snowballed into Tom had this idea that he wanted to do with Mike, or Mike had an idea of a series of stories with Young Hellboy. And he kind of came up with the ideas and had Tom write some crazy scripts. And then they got me to draw it. So I very quickly said, I'm not Mike. I'm never going to be Mike. So I don't want to look at what he did so much. So I don't feel like it's Mike. It has to feel like it's me. So I did it, and they were happy enough to hire me to do the second one. And when Tom said, "This is my pitch for the second one," I got 2 words: Lobster Johnson. I'm in.
So yeah, I wanted to flip to this so that everybody could see how you drew Young Hellboy. Lot 18 for 300. But so you tried to avoid any way that Mike had drawn it, so you could just give it your
Yeah,
take.
because invariably you got to look at it. Well, Mike didn't draw that. That's not nearly as good as the way Mike drew it. So if I do my own thing, it's a little easier to take it as it is. But as you can tell on this page, is the first 4 issues I did, I had that very open line art. There was no spotted black, specifically because it was the feel of the story we were going for. And I think that by leaving the artwork open for color, it becomes usually becomes brighter and more playful. Mm-hmm. And in this whole sequence, Young Hellboy is actually delirious. He's got some weird fever dream happening. So as he's running around doing things, like in that upper right-hand panel, you can see him kind of sweating and looking kind of nervous. In the lower left-hand panel, he's dressed up in a superhero costume, where in his fever dream, he believes he's running on an adventure with Lobster Johnson. So all the dream sequences have some spotted blacks and different costumes and stuff like that. And that was a subtle way to change the feel of the story as you got into his dreams, where they started adding more black ink to the pages.
Well, it's a nice page, definitely. And then this is where I went out of order. Sorry to say, I think I went to issue 2. I don't know how I.
So this was actually the first miniseries.
Okay, this is from the first.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, this was a story about she was a fighter pilot who gets crash lands on this island, and she's a jungle girl. So they had seen my Alien Jungle Girl book and said, "You'd be a perfect fit for this story about a jungle girl." So this was Scarlet something or other. I forgot her last name already, but that's Scarlet. She was a jungle adventurer.
Yeah, Hellboy is he's rather childlike. Like the other one, where in the fever dream he does seem a little bit more demonic. Here he's just a rather playful demon. So this was lot 19, priced at $250 from Hellboy, Young Hellboy, the first run that you had on it, issue 2 and page 3. So was this one from the first run as well?
Yeah, this is also from the hidden land. So they're on this crazy island where he's kind of consoling that ape character in the panel, because spoiler, the Scarlet actually becomes a giant ape in the story. That's her mystical power. Then she has to fight this gigantic bat creature, and there's these ape people. And this is where Tom said, "I'm just throwing a lot of crazy stuff into the story to see how much Mike will let me get away with." And Mike was on board with it all. So it was
he,
kind of a
he
fun
didn't he didn't
story.
redline anything and send it
No,
back.
I think he was kind of like, yeah, what the hell, run with it. It's fun.
Yeah,
So
well,
he's like, draw a giant bat. Absolutely.
so this is from the last issue of that one, issue 4. So then all right, so then we after Young Hellboy, we have pages from Ninja Turtles, and we didn't really talk about that previously. This is from Dimension X. It's issue 5, so lot 21, priced at $225. I mean, how did you get this gig? I mean, again, it's it's an IP that's very recognizable. Hellboy is same thing, and then but Ninja Turtles, that's one that a lot of people have preconceived ideas on how they should look, and they've certainly changed a lot in the many different cartoons that are out there. I mean, my kids are always watching a different series seemingly. Every month there's something else that I'm not familiar with that I'm seeing. So how did you get the gig, and how did you just kind of lay into your approach to drawing the turtles?
And another one of those jobs where the editor just reached out of the blue and said, would you be interested in the turtle story? And of course, yeah, I love the turtles. I love, remember buying the issues at New England Comics. I have some of the earlier issues, the black and white ones still, that I remember picking up and loving it. And I thought, man, that's going to be great. It's going to be a turtle story. I'd love to do this. And Devin Grayson was right again. I'm like, well, this is even better. This is going to be great. I get to draw them, maybe having crazy battles and whatnot. And they're like, it's on an alien planet where it's all plants, and there's a little plant spore character, and it was so far from what I expected it to be that I had to kind of wrap my head around where it was going. So like, it's all.
Did you have to come up with the character design for the planet and the creatures there?
Yeah. So I had to, come up with a whole planet and that little spork type thing that kind of is floating around there, and not the story that I expected to draw, but I had a lot of fun drawing it. I guess it was a series of one shots called like Dimension X that came out maybe, 5 years ago at this point. I lose track of time on these things.
Well, when you're always busy, that's expected, and it's a good thing. So let's see. I'll switch to lot 22. Same book, page 9. So if some fun action on this one, and plenty of those little spore creatures on here. I know in one of the next 2 pages, one of the turtles gets spored by it. But yeah, this is fun. I mean, I like the panel layout on this stuff is great, and the expressions of the turtles. I mean, so your approach to the turtles, though, did you just say I'm going to do it my way, or did you, how did the characterizations, especially the anatomy, because everybody kind of draws them a little different, right?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at what they were doing in the book, and that I remember how I would draw them as a kid, and I kind of went back to that. But if you look at that panel where he's jumping on the guy's head on panel 2, like you can see a lot of my influence there of Walt Simonson, his anatomy, and how he's, some of the dynamic stuff that's happening there. But like I kind of tried to make each one a little different and feel like they're not interchangeable characters. I think it's so easy to just draw 4 turtles that you just change the color or change the weapons, and it's a different turtle. But I did have a little spreadsheet next to my drawing board of, some of their costumes were a little different, and I had to figure out which one was which to keep all those details straight.
Well, thank you, Matt DiTullio, for claiming lot 22. Matt's getting married, and he's buying artwork. I don't know if his bride-to-be knows that he's doing that, but hey, Matt, it's good to have you here. I know it's a momentous time in his life, and we're happy that you could break away from all the tomorrow. Exactly. He's down in the Keys getting ready to, the big days tomorrow. Congratulations. Yeah. It's a wonderful thing, Matt. We Robin's down by the pool, so she'll never know. All right, well, get used to that, Matt. That as we as art collectors, sometimes you have to go into the other room with your phone and complete an art purchase so that they don't know. But what she's not aware of won't hurt her. But again, congrats on getting the artwork and for the nuptials tomorrow. So this one's in Matt's collection now. So let's move on to lot 23. And yeah, this is the this is where he gets spored and gets knocked unconscious. That was well done. So this one's 225, and it's page 13 from that book. And let me see here. Yeah, that's a good one. And again, I like the you really, with at least here with these stories, you're really playing around with the camera angles a lot. Going we get the drone view there in the middle, and and the silhouettes. I love that intro image to the page, just kind of silhouetting the characters and the planet that they're on. Just fun. Let's see here. Let me. Matt has picked up lot 23. Well, what Robin doesn't know won't hurt her. Right. Congrats, Matt. Thank you for picking up that one as well. And we do have one more Turtles piece. This one is page 16 from that book. And again, yeah, he's now woken up from that. But you can't argue with Spore.
No, not really.
I love that first panel. Yeah, this is good. But so this one's 225 as well. So it's page 16 from that book as well. So there you go. That was the end of the turtle stuff. Now we have 3 completely different pieces, to end the show with here. And this is one I forgot to ask you what it was for. So you'll have to tell me. And it's the only piece that's not drawn on a conventional piece of Bristol either.
Okay.
But
it
is
okay.
The West Coast Avengers piece. So I don't know, was this for fun? But it's also drawn on, and I've gotten material like that before. It's kind of a plastic polymer kind of surface.
It's actually like a very smooth pressed like Bristol, but it's really old.
Is that what it is? I mean, it
yeah.
is. Like, I'm shocked. I'm gonna have to check it again, because I was like, I don't know what this is. You know what? You are right. That is one of the. Okay, I have not seen Bristol's. This thing is like slick. That's incredible. Was it easy to ink on? I mean, it feels like well, okay.
It was a little tricky, my father was an illustrator, a technical illustrator. He worked for the Navy for years, but he had a lot of art supplies that, as he got older, he's like, I'm not using anymore. So I started taking stuff from his house, his studio, and there's a whole pile of Bristol board, and it was so old that it was starting to yellow, and that's what that is. That was actually it was white Bristol at one point, but it's yellow with age slightly.
Right, because it has a slight yellow tint to the board. Right, I'm just shocked. But I mean, I'm holding it up to a light now, and I get it now. But boy, initially, because I forget which artist did. There's another Turtles artist, Andy Kuhn. He drew on this material that was a little thinner than this, but it was actually some kind of I don't want to call it plastic, but it was it was a glossy, slick, non-paper stock. But okay, so no, then what was this drawn for? Is this drawn for fun, or?
That was just done for fun. Yeah, someone had commissioned. I don't think it was Ryan, oddly enough, an Alpha Flight drawing in that format of that. I think Arthur Adams did quite a few of these pieces where the team lined up like that. They said, I want to get Alpha Flight, and then I did. Someone else commissioned, I think the X-Men in the 80s. And I said, what's my favorite team from the 80s? And it was that lineup of the West Coast Avengers. So I had just done that for fun, and I kind of forgot I had it. And when I was going through stuff to send your way, I threw it in the box.
Well, it's very nicely done. I like this one a lot. And yeah, who didn't love the West Coast Avengers? If you were a Marvel fan, that was a fun book. I own a couple pages from that run. Because again, they were
jealous.
Good stories. It didn't, that didn't. I don't think Alberto's anymore. That didn't have Cap in them. It didn't have Thor in them either. And it was it was like the second run, and it was good. I mean, Iron Man was there, but yeah, no, I thought it was awesome. I love the stories. So this is just a commission style pinup, West Coast Avengers, priced at $350, and then Shane. my good friend Shane. He says that I have a West Coast Avengers cover recreation by you, Craig. Shane's. I used to live in Ohio, and unfortunately, I think I've seen more of Shane since I moved away than when I lived there too. And he was less than an hour away. But Shane's got an awesome art collection, and if he has a West Coast Avenger cover recreation by you, then it doesn't surprise me.
It does not surprise me at all. No,
So have you
Shane's a
done? I
great
mean,
guy.
cover recreations, is that something that you would normally do, or is that like more of a on request sort of thing?
Every now and then I would do it just to um, for fun, yeah. But I do a lot of people request them once they see them.
Hmm.
Like I've actually done a series of I think 4 so far, or 5 Kim Possible cover homages to the Nick Fury covers that Steranko did. So I've taken the Kim character and put her in those outfits. I've
That
actually
sounds
got
fun.
one in the works right now, but because I'd worked on Kim Possible comics for Disney Adventures at one point, so
Hmm.
it felt like it was a natural fit.
No, that's perfect. Those Steranko covers are historic.
They
I
really are. And
mean,
it's amazing how like limited his output was, but how influential it really is.
I always think that too about him. I mean, you look at, I mean, he's done more work on the illustration side of things as a
Yeah,
painter than he did in comics. But you're right. It's remarkable how he stands out as of just a super influential creator. I mean, his style, was it. I mean, he was so of the times. He was kind of psychedelic, but not over the top psychedelic. He just
yeah,
had it down really well. But yeah, he had an exhibit in Youngstown. During the pandemic, like 2021, maybe 2022. But it was all of you know uh, shadow covers and mostly his pulp related paintings and things. So it was kind of neat to see, but just stuff that you had no idea. It's like, what does this guy do with all his time when he's not doing comics or drawing Nick Fury head sketches? It's
like, oh, he has a whole other career. Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah,
completely different career. Yeah, I don't believe there's ever been a collection of his work, but I mean, they're all large scale. They're all up like uh, 20 by 30 paintings that are used
Mhm.
as pulp covers. Yep. What did Matt say? Kim Possible and one of his favorite matchups to watch after school.
Yeah.
All right. Matt is in his early 30s, so yes, I think I got to see Kim Possible a little bit too, because my kids are in their 20s. But all right, we
That's
got
about
two
the
more.
right age. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, see, we had a very bad habit. We would, and I hope, no, my wife and kids aren't watching. We actually watched TV when we had dinner.
Yeah.
So we would literally, sit down at 5 and I don't know what was on, but we're always watching something. So when you're supposed to be enjoying family time, we watched cartoons. Still, it was what it was. It was probably our way of getting, because my wife and I work from home. It was our
Mhm.
way of maybe breaking away from the fact that we had to talk to each other all day long.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
all right, so we got 2 covers to finish things off here. You mentioned Jungle Drama earlier. This is the cover to issue 1, priced at $400. And tell me about this one. Was this how did it come about? Because I don't think I even have a date for this run. I didn't make a note of that.
Jeez, I think that might have been 2 years ago. I could probably
Okay.
look it up on my computer if I'm really looking for it. But the person who was working on the book, Troy, is a fan and a friend, and asked if I could do a cover for his book, and he sent me a couple of the character designs and just said it's kind of like Betty and Veronica in the jungle. So I can do that.
I thought it was going to be just draw Shanna,
Yeah.
but if Betty and Veronica were jungle queens, that's what you get. So did you read the comic? Did you get to?
You know what? I have not, which is awful. I will say that I get far more comics than I read. I've got piles and piles and piles of comics, and I try to read them all, but I flip through and look at the artwork, and that's as far as I get usually.
Well, nothing wrong with that. You could open your own little library
Yeah.
for the neighborhood kids. Robert Dean says you always do fun cheesecake. So this one was $400 on 11 by 17, and we have one other piece to look at today, and that was I should have read up on this one. I don't know what Time Traveler Tales was, but this was, I think they covered issue 4.
Yeah, I honestly did not know either, but my editor, who had been working on Young Hellboy, she moved off to do other stuff. She was a full-fledged editor and asked if I'd do a cover for one of the books she was editing, and I said absolutely. And I had no idea what it was, but they sent me some of the style guides, character designs, and this is what I came up with.
Yeah, you've worked with a lot of different publishers. I think this is for Dark Horse. I know that the Young Hellboy work was with Dark Horse, Dynamite. So it's good to have connections with a lot of different publishers, right?
It is. It's wild, when you talk about having connections with editors, but you have so many that have gone by where, after working in comics for almost 3 decades, like the editors who've been replaced, like it's so far gone with so many editors now that I don't. It's like starting from scratch with some publishers. But I'm happy to be busy working on the stuff that I'm doing, so I've got no complaints.
Awesome. Well, this one's $500, lot 27 from Time Traveler Tales issue 4. And that's all the pieces we've got to show now. We sold 4 during the chat, and I'm gonna post everything that didn't sell up to my calf gallery, probably before I have dinner today. I could recap them, but you know what? I think it's gonna be more fun to post them up on calf. Let me put my link in the chat for everybody, so you can easily find my calf. If you're not already following my gallery, which you should be, this will be an easy way for you to get over there after the show or this evening once I get everything posted. But yeah, so those pieces will be there. Matt, I know that I already got emailed by Jason Murdoch, so thank you, Jason. And Matt and I know each other since we actually work together. So he'll Matt, you can take, if you email me today, that's fine, but do not email me on Sunday. That's all I have to say. Take care of the bride, and I'll be happy to wait for an email on Monday. But Craig, this was fun. Honestly, this was a lot of fun. I'm glad we finally got to do this. I know that Jim had mentioned that we might get a chance to do a show, several months ago, and it's always good to bring in a new creator who I can introduce to the audience who maybe aren't as familiar with your work. That we had some people who are already very familiar with your work watching the show today.
There was a few, yeah. It was a lot of fun.
Well, we will. I will definitely be in touch. But again, thank you for doing this, and we will. Like I say, everybody pay attention to my calf gallery. I'll get everything posted up there. And Craig, again, lots. We should. We'll hang out in the green room. We'll talk after the show. All right, everybody. You have it's a Saturday. We know you got things other to do. You work around the house or whatever. So get back to that. But we appreciate you hanging out with us today, and we'll see you again. Well, I've got a show this evening at 9 too, so maybe I'll see you then. Yes, exactly. Take care, everybody.